Rodney, I love your attention to detail. I love the backdrop. I love the costume. Now, where are you right now, sir?
I'm in Stephen here right outside Dallas. I was a former Navy, was in the Navy for 9 years. Now I work for the state of Texas, been there for 15 years.
Give him a big round of applause. Thank you for your service, Rodney. All right, I got a good deal for you. You could win what's behind curtain one. Tiffany, what's behind curtain one?
Hi everybody, I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Pat Cavlin with just an update on what's going on today. You know, we talked about the chance of there being a lot of rain and cold temperatures, and that's what I would say 70% of us have seen so far today. Different story though at the coast. We're looking live here from our partners at Saltwater Recon, and you can see Surfside Beach. I mean, the waves are crashing on shore. We've got big white caps all the way offshore. The wind has been howling on shore all day. We've had periods of really heavy rain. It's also really warm and humid down at the coast as well. Galveston, same thing. Looking live here at Pleasure Pier, visibility's down, rain is falling. It's in the 70s. It's really humid, kind of a soupy day. Definitely does not feel like November out there. And again, the waves crashing on shore as those winds continue to gust. Here's a different perspective. This is again from Saltwater Recon. This is a 73rd Street beach camera. So we're looking up towards the north. So Pleasure Pier would be there in the distance, but you can't see it right now because visibility is down so low. Just thanks to all of the rain that's coming down. So we've got wet roads, nothing severe at this point, but we are watching a few cells. So let's take a look at the bigger picture. Just talk about what the setup is right now and what's going on. There's a lot happening on this map from Oklahoma all the way down towards Texas. So we'll pause it and we'll kind of break things down. We've got two systems that are merging. We've got a coastal low that's right there, and we've got another area of low pressure up here coming out of the Panhandle and going into Oklahoma. So that first system has a warm front that extends to the north. This system has a warm front that's hugging the coast. And then in between them, we've got a cold front. And that's where all that snow, that blue shading there up in Oklahoma, that's snow coming down, really heavy snow as well, just to the south of Oklahoma City, the south, and also to the west. For us here in Houston, we're obviously not going to get that cold, but that cold front does trail back down towards the south. So behind all of this mess as we go through the day and as we get into tomorrow, we are going to turn cooler again for those of us that aren't cool. You go north of town, though, Huntsville, Conroe, I mean, you're stuck in the low 50s and upper 40s. That's pretty much where you're going to stay all day long. But we do have a severe component, and that's because of that clash between that colder air and that warmer air. So let's get you in for a closer look. Again, a lot going on here with the map. A lot of cloud coverage out there. Obviously, that's the gray and the white shading. We'll pause this, and I just want to show you the areas that I'm kind of keeping a very close eye on. There's a few cells that have my attention. The first ones here, they're offshore down to the south. So we're not too worried about those because they're moving away from land. And let me clean this up for you a little bit, actually, make it easier for you to see. So we'll take satellite off. That's a little easier. And I'll switch the colors here as well. I'll go to blue. I think blue is a good way to highlight it. So these storms have been pretty feisty here just offshore of Galveston for the last hour or two, but they haven't come on shore yet. Those are the cells that have had the most rotation so far today. I'm also pretty interested in this cell here, traveling along 59 right near El Campo. There's been a little bit of rotation with that. There have been no warnings so far today, and then we've got a big batch of downpours and thunderstorms up here to the north. The severe threat, the severe component that we're watching for today is split between two areas. And it's really split based on where the temperatures are. So the colder temperatures, we're seeing a different threat than where we're seeing the warmer temperatures. So to the south, it's a tornado threat, and then to the north, it's more of an isolated hail, maybe a gusty wind threat. And all of this is very low end and very isolated in nature, but still kind of a sneaky threat, which is why we're giving it so much attention today. It could catch some of us off guard, especially with how cool it's been lately. So I just want to take you down to the south here. And this storm just to the south of Palacios really has my attention. Because when we switch over to velocity, it's kind of hard to see on this map. Let me see if I just move it. No, kind of hard to see. But that bright spot in there, that could indicate a little bit of rotation. This is not a very well-sampled area. by radar because it falls in between two radar sites. So we're kind of looking at the edge of these radar sites, which is, the closer to the radar you are, the better the image is going to be. The farther away you get, the more pixelated it is. It's not as detailed, but when you're looking at radar images from a distance, you got to look for bright spots like that. So that's something that I'm watching. That's just to the south of Port Lavaca there, and that would be coming towards Matagorda County as we get into, let's say, the next 45 minutes or so. And these have been, some of these cells offshore have been producing waterspouts, or at least had the potential of producing waterspouts through the course of the morning. Another area of interest is this cell down here, and then these cells. And this was what I was talking about before, just to the south of Galveston. Those cells there, those have been spinning pretty much all morning long. In fact, as we loop this, you'll kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about. Notice those the brighter areas of green and blue. So the brighter areas there off to the side of the screen, that's what I'm talking about there, those brighter areas against darker areas. That's a sign of rotation. Bottom line, the storms that are closest to the coast are spinning. So there is the chance for waterspouts, and there is the chance that one of those waterspouts comes on shore as a tornado. So that's the threat. And it does kind of follow, again, the temperature gradient across the area. So here's future track, and it just looks like a mess. There's nothing really that jumps off the screen at you, right? A lot of green, a lot of yellow, a lot of orange. As we go through the afternoon, though, it's going to be these southern cells here that we watch the closest, because those, notice they start to cluster together, they become a little better organized, and they even start to try to take on a bit of a kidney bean shape, a little bit of a curve to them. There's one example. This is one computer model. They change every few hours, but that's the example that we've got with this run. A little bit of a curvature there. Really subtle details that Future Track is showing us that just at least have our attention as we go through the afternoon and the evening. So the timing on this is going to be during that drive time home for the coastal spots for southern areas, 4, 5, 6 o'clock. Now, we could still have a line of showers approaching the Houston area around this time, but I think the severe threat's really low. I think the severe threat's really going to be focused towards the coastal spots south of 59 here as we go through the next few hours. We keep playing this, and I would say by 6 and 7 o'clock, that severe threat is now offshore. So this is not going to be really an issue anymore. It's just going to be kind of leftover showers here to the east side of town. That's not severe. So that is what we're going to be following for you here. It's pretty much the next few hours. Then we dry things out as we get into the overnight. Let's talk instability. That's one of the big ingredients that you need for thunderstorm development. Earlier this morning, we actually had thunderstorms up in Liberty, Polk, San Jacinto, Montgomery County, when it was like 40 and 50 degrees, and that's pretty unusual. It's unusual to have thunderstorms when it's that cold out. Typically, we think it's got to be warm, it's got to be really humid. That comes down to the difference in instability. So that's what we call elevated instability. It's when the surface is stable and cold, but once you get a couple of thousands of feet up into the air, above a certain layer, things are unstable. So thunderstorms can grow just at a higher elevation. Whereas to the south, where it's warm and muggy, we call that surface instability. Why does this matter? Because you can't get a tornado threat with elevated instability. That only comes with surface instability. And that's why it's just not something that we typically talk about. But this setup is a little unique in that regard. And so that's why we do have that severe threat for tornadoes in place. And it pretty much matches up with where the tornado energy index is the highest. So what we've got happening right now is a coastal low that's down towards Corpus Christi right now, and it's lifting to the north, and ahead of it we've got this warm front. That's the red line there. Anything underneath that red line is where we're going to see the chance, low-end chance, but still the chance for maybe a waterspout, some funnel clouds, and a tornado. To the north, it becomes more of a hail and damaging wind threat, but again, still very, very low end. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll go back to radar. We'll take you across the area, and I want to show you what's known as CAPE. So we'll pause the image, and we'll go to CAPE. And CAPE is just, that's storm potential, right? And the axis of instability is down here. That's surface instability. We've got that elevated instability up here, which is why there's still thunderstorms happening out towards Columbus and up towards College Station. But that surface-based instability only exists down here, and that's because it's to the south of the warm front. So your warm front is right around that area. Your area of low pressure is out here. You've got the winds that are screaming on shore, and so we've got this spin in the atmosphere. So that's where that threat is coming into play. So the winds are to the east, north of that cold front. they're from the southeast, south of that cold front. So it's drawing in. I mean, Gulf water temperatures are still in the 70s, so there's still a lot of energy out here to be tapped into. So that storm system is pulling in that warmth and humidity, and if it can make it far enough on shore, that's where you get that tornado threat into play. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, and that's what we're worried about. So when we go back over to radar, you can see there's not a ton of activity. It's not everywhere, but where we do see it, it has been pretty heavy today. So we've got this storm up here in El Campo. Let's take a look at that one. Let's go to the velocity on that. So velocity is what we look for, again, to see if there's any rotation, and we don't see any. You know, if there were really concentrated bright spots against darker spots, or if there was red next to green, that would indicate rotation. And we just don't have that. Kind of just a messy looking storm, thunder and lightning with that. Let's go down to the south now, the storms that we're watching here offshore. So this is an example of what we're talking about with rotation. We've got some broad rotation in here. We've got broad rotation in here. This is about 20 to 30 miles offshore, though, so this is not an issue. These are all moving away and out towards the Gulf of Mexico. There was that one spot to the south and west of Palacios. We're still seeing, again, the potential for a little bit of rotation with that. That's something that we'll be keeping an eye on. But that's pretty much what we're doing here behind the scenes today, is we're babysitting the radar. We're sitting there, we're looking at the radar, we're watching these little details. We're in touch with the National Weather Service as well, and you know, they're the ones that are in charge of issuing tornado warnings. We could get one today, maybe one or two, but if this threat stays far enough south, if these cells keep moving over water instead of over land, then it's not going to be an issue. It's going to be a warm rainy day at the coast and a cold rainy day for everyone else. But this is pretty much what it looks like right now. This is where the warm front is set up, and I mean, it's just obvious with the temperatures. You know, we're pushing 70 in Galveston right now. It's 50 in Conroe. It's 49 in College Station. So that warm front really makes the difference there. And this is the area that we're going to be watching for the potential of maybe one or two spit up tornadoes as we go through the rest of the day. So it's going to just be a rainy evening for us here. It's a cold, drenching rain for a lot of us, especially to the north. Coastal spots, though, be on your guard. Have a way to get warnings, whether it's your cell phone, a NOAA radio, TV, whatever. Have a way to get warnings here as we go through the rest of the day, because these things can spin up fast. And we'll be with you here, myself and Chief Meteorologist David Paul, in the 411 coming up here at 4 o'clock. Hope to see you then.